Uh, my name is Leon, and this video I will pretty much be going over my personal experience with my addiction to gambling on websites related to CSGO and CSGO itself, as inspired by CoffeeZilla's recent series regarding Counter-Strike gambling, and it's something that I personally heavily resonate to. So I figured maybe it would be nice to give my perspective on things, even if nobody really sees it. And yeah, I'll first give a brief introduction of my relationship with Counter Strike and Counter Strike gambling. Basically, Counter Strike it's never been a game that I dedicated a lot of time to. It's not something I really enjoyed playing. It's something more of just I hop on once in a while with my friends, and of course, there's the cases. And as you know, children they're pretty susceptible to gambling and pretty much any addiction there is. So I think I was maybe around 13 at the time. And yeah, I was playing CS, and eventually the idea of cases got completely introduced to me. And being somebody that had no knowledge regarding gambling, I kind of started to get into it bit by bit, and eventually it got really bad. First, I guess I'll introduce my how I got into CS gambling at all. Uh, Basically, cases in CS, as you guys know, it's extremely easily accessed. It doesn't require any sort of age verification, nothing. So all you need is a few dollars. Buy a case off the market, buy a key, and then there you go. That's your first hit of dopamine from gambling that you probably wasn't really aware of as a child. I was 13 at the time when that happened. And yeah, because of that case, I was like, okay, I want to open more. And just like anybody that gets addicted to gambling to begin with, I burnt all my New Year's money for the past 3 years on CS in a single day. And to put into perspective how outrageous that was, my New Year's money for the past 3 years, all compiled together, was somewhere upwards to 2,000 USD. So I burned all of that on cases. And I actually kind of got returns for it. I got really lucky as a first time, and I ended up unboxing an AK X-ray, like the red one, where it wasn't from a case, it was from the other thing where you spend the low point and then you roll something that's much harder to get. I'm pretty sure the same rates as the souvenir packages. But yeah, unfortunately, since I was a kid, and you know how CS works, the scammers, right? You see something that's mad expensive, send a friend request, offer a outrageously good trade, and as a kid, when I was 13, I did not know any of that. So I ended up losing a $1,000 AK skin to a guy that literally just scammed me, which I was pretty disheartened back then, but being devastated didn't really get me to kind of think negatively of cases or anything. It actually ended up getting me hooked even more. And eventually, every time I open cases, I'll screenshot to my friends, and nobody kind of thought about it as, oh, this could go really badly in the future. It was more of like, oh yeah, we're just spending a bit of money and having fun, since nobody really has a good idea of what a gambling addiction looks like, and it perpetuated to the next level. Slowly but surely, gambling addictions, or really just any addiction in general, is something that I believe creeps up on you, slowly and really subtly, where you don't really realize that it's happening to you. Especially when you're a kid as well. Maybe if you're an adult, you'd be a bit more aware, but as children, is you don't see it happening. All right, you don't look at yourself, what you're doing every day, and you're like, maybe I have a gambling problem. No, you don't do that, right? So before I knew it, gambling was pretty much my method of escaping any sort of boredom, and it was pretty much the most dopamine-inducing thing I could possibly be doing, which isn't a good thing because your life kind of becomes devoid of everything else, since they don't give you as much pleasure as gambling. And before I knew it, I was pretty much burning everything I could possibly get my hands on it, which thankfully isn't much, because I'm a child and I don't have access to that much money. I was pretty much burning all my lunch money, a few $100 in USD once a while here and there, pretty much all into specific websites. Yeah. Eventually it could even get worse. Maybe at New Year's I'd get a red packet for a much larger sum of money. I would still quite possibly put it back into cases and pretty much get nothing back. I mean, once in a while I won't, but if you know, as a gambler, winning doesn't really matter when you have an addiction, because no matter how much you win, you're just gonna go back. Maybe not the same day, but a few months later, if you like a month later, a few weeks later, you don't know. You might just put everything that you won back into what's gonna lose you all of it again. Yeah. And besides that, my friends also never caught on to it, which I don't blame them. I don't expect them to, because the thing is, nobody will be just there for you externally. Nobody will. It's not. You can't expect, when you have an addiction, you don't expect any of your friends or really anybody beside you to catch on and see, oh yeah, maybe this guy has a problem. Maybe we should help him out. Apparently, if that were to happen to you, you would be really lucky. But in most cases, it doesn't really happen. So you're kind of stuck in your little void, your little bubble of gambling perpetuation, where you just can't get out of it. And yeah, and I mean, of course, there's a lot more things to it. It got worse at times. I tried some gambling strategies. Even more. I made myself think that maybe I could win against the house. You can't win against the house, dude. And yeah, and just as an example of gambling addiction, maybe not directly related to CS, but for children, I also know, I've heard the story firsthand from another guy. He worked at a McDonald's part time for 2 years, and he earned around 10,000 USD, and he burnt all the money on cases, not on CS, but just straight up gambling cases on another game, which that's just a horrible waste of time and money, man. Yeah. Something less related to me, but more related to the general environment of CS gambling, which is the role of CS sites and CSGO cases themselves, and the skins as well. Alright, so let's cover the concept of online casinos in general, and maybe a bit more specifically, CSGO online casinos. And just like real life casinos, online casinos, including CSGO casinos, they operate pretty much the same way, and by them being online, they get to dodge so many more legal consequences that would definitely be there to keep the real casino, like the physical casinos, in check, and you wouldn't be able to apply the same rules to online ones, right? Because there's so many legal loopholes around that would just let them do so many things that they want. And at the same time, gambling is a really lucrative business, because you're psychologically, in a sense, to some extent, you're psychologically manipulating people to eat up all their money, right? That's kind of pretty much what it is. And of course, since everybody loves money, nobody really ever decides to go against them, right? And especially, like, pretty much all the stakeholders in the, I guess, the CSGO gambling environment, no, they don't have incentive to deal with it, because besides the consumers, it benefits all the producers in the market, pretty much. Especially extremely large stakeholders, or maybe the largest stakeholder like Valve. It benefits them. It doesn't hurt them in any way possible. I'm pretty sure it's more profitable for them to keep those online casinos there. So nobody really wants to do anything. And the next is gambling, really just as a business. It's ruined lives. Everybody knows that gambling is something that's ate people up completely. Take their house, take everything they have, and go into generational debt. That's just classic gambling, man. And if adults are susceptible to that kind of addiction, then what do you expect from children, right? Same effects will definitely be observed in children when they are exposed to it. The good thing, at least, is we kind of have more time to maybe get out of the cycle of addiction, and we don't have nearly as much access to large amounts of money enough for us to gamble to ruin our lives entirely. So I guess that's a little bit better, but still it's still pretty bad, right? Better to have it not happen at all. All right, next I'll go over the turning point for me and kind of how I got out of gambling myself entirely. Which I'll be calling it the turning point. Basically a bit back, maybe 2 years later, 3 years later after I started gambling. The height of the bad part was like maybe when I was like 14, 15. I got past those 3 years, and from 13, now that I'm 16, sometime this year, 2024, some of my friends started gambling themselves on a website that I wouldn't name, but I saw myself in them, and kind of the process that I had that developed into kind of a bit of an addiction. I saw it happen to them, and I was like, that's pretty bad. And to watch something that happened to me unfold on somebody else, it was quite an eye-opening experience. So I kind of feel like I kind of have a responsibility to make sure that they don't turn into what I am. And by doing so, I realized that I also helped myself with what I was doing, because at the time I was still really frequently gambling, and I became more and more insensitive to the money that I was losing, which is really bad. And also, just as like something funny, I also listened to a quote from Frank Ocean, and what it says is, "Whatever you do, never run back to what broke you." And I found it quite funny because it actually really well applied to my gambling addiction, and because of that, I stopped opening my like daily cases completely, even though it's technically what we call free money, but just don't touch it at all, man. Alright, next will be a pretty long part, but it'll be my personal opinion of how the problem could potentially be solved. And from what I think, there's two parties that could possibly act to solve the issue, and that would be either proper authority, governments, or Valve themselves. And you can also maybe expect the casinos themselves to change. If they were to want to change, that could bring change, but I don't think they'll ever have an incentive to do so without external push. So I don't think that would really matter. So first, if it was Valve that would decide to change, um, why it would be nice for them to do something is because they literally control the entire supply chain of the currency that's being used in this massive ass industry. They have the power to put an end to pretty much most of, if not all, the problems that CS:GO gambling has produced. But the main problem is it requires effort from them, and that effort, there's no incentive for them to go and do all of that, because again, I am quite confident that they gain and bring in profits by keeping those online casinos alive. So without without external pushes, I really doubt Valve will ever do something, or maybe they'll find a moral compass that aligns with what we believe in, and maybe they will do something. But I heavily doubt that's possible. Or maybe it can have like a Luigi Mangione of Valve. For legal reasons, that's a joke. Don't have a Luigi Mangione for the Valve. But yeah, that's what I have to say for Valve. The next is if it was proper authority or government, pretty much government intervention. All right. The good thing is, governments, unlike Valve, they actually have a good enough of a reason to stop online gambling. That literally targets the demographic, the underage demographic. Um, because of course, underage gambling brings a lot of problems to kids, and kids are kind of they kind of support the economy of countries when they grow up. So by allowing kids to gamble online when they're young, that brings a lot of negative externalities. My economics students. So of course, governments they would actually have incentive to put an end to it. The problem is governments are apparently not always as responsible as you think they would be, and they make a lot of mistakes, which I couldn't blame them. But it would be really annoying to also just rely on them to do it, because I think it's been shown in the past many times that you can't always rely on governments to do things for you. So I figured maybe it would probably be best for the change to be brought from governments, pushed by people, because the only people that seem to care the most are the people speaking out about it, which is pretty much all the people, the people. But they apparently have no power in actually changing anything by themselves. So maybe bring change through governments is probably the best way. I really don't know how I'd be able to go into that because I'm just not knowledgeable enough. But from the surface level, that's how I see it. And next is my message to others. Maybe those who has experienced something remotely similar. Yeah, just like drugs, gambling addictions. Try to not touch it if you can, because I know there's countries for drugs where they kind of let you test it, in the sense where in a kind of like a controlled environment you get to take drugs without any legal repercussions. But I suggest you just never try it at all, because you think you might be responsible for yourself, but you really don't know if you would be able to fully control yourself when the time comes. So, better safe than sorry. Might as well not touch it. You don't have to try keeping yourself in check, because if that is literally your final line of defense and you lose it, well, there's a pretty big way. The fall down is pretty far, man. And next, if you do have slight problems with gambling, or you think you might, external help is always good. By that I don't mean like go to a fucking NGO that does talk circles about addictions. I don't think you have to go that far. We need our reliable friends. Pretty much any of your friends, you can expect them not to help you directly without you telling them, because I wouldn't say you should rely on your friends to literally just know that they know that you have a problem and that they'll be there to help you. No, you can't really expect that. So what I suggest you do is, at your moments of clarity after gambling, it's always best to communicate to your friends, yo, I might have an issue. Next time I go, can you make sure that if we lose, we lose, and if we go beyond this, you like physically intervene and stop me. That helps, to have a group of people aware that you have a problem. It's always good to have other people keep you in check. And to have a lot of people telling you you have a problem, maybe you should stop. And if they were to have actually some sort of value in your life, you might actually care. And I really do hope you don't go beyond that to the point where you don't even care about what they're saying anymore, because I don't know how to help you. Maybe seek professional help, because I myself didn't go that bad. I went pretty bad, but yeah. And that's pretty much it. It concludes this video. I'm not having a great time making this as I expected. I probably already went past the phase where I wanted to kind of make it, but I'll make it nonetheless, because I don't know. I don't want to go against the wishes and will of my past self a literal day ago. Yeah. Hope this video was informative or entertaining. I really need to figure out how to do better storytelling, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one if I ever do decide to make a next one. Goodbye.